I think the ones that really do it well absolutely know who their customer, their target market is, who their consumer is, and they make sure that they know everywhere that they consume media.
I will see a lot of business owners, a lot of you that if you go to exit, you start cutting back on things like marketing. Not a good idea because your sales is typically takes 6 to 9 months to sell a business, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. If you back up on marketing, that can hurt your sales and hurt that walking away, and you may not be able to walk away.
People don't put enough money into advertising. You're right. They're not putting, and they rarely, even when they're doing really well, say, let's put 10% back in. But you need to do your homework. You need to talk to a marketing professional.
Hey everybody, Steve Burton here at the Scale to Sell podcast. Welcome back for episode 59, all right? And we're going to be talking with a friend of mine, longtime friend, an associate of mine. I'll introduce Juli here in just a second, but we're going to be talking about today's topic is why most marketing fails and what really works with Julianne Worden. Hey, Juli, how you doing?
I'm good, Steve. It's good to be on here. I've certainly heard lots of them, so it's fun to be a part of it.
No doubt. So here's my background. So I've owned multiple businesses over the years, dozens of them actually. When I got involved in a financial services business and really focused on that in 2004, shortly thereafter, one of Juli's teammates came knocking on my door, and she worked for local radio stations here in Virginia. And Jerry Monday, he doesn't know I mentioned him today. But at your direction, I guess, because you were in charge of the sales team there, came by and told me, "Hey, you'd be great on a talk radio show. We have a show open, a spot open up on Saturday morning." So, Juli, but welcome to the call. That's a
Thank
long time
you.
back, and I will tell people. I told Juli, and she's used this over the years that introduction and getting me on talk radio was probably the single best thing for that moment in time in my business because it gave me instant credibility, gave me an audience to talk about too every week about this, that, and the other. But anyway, Juli, welcome to the call today.
Thank you so much. No, it was something that started with one show. It went as I think you were doing 10 at one time, 10 per month, or at least 8. But now I think you're doing just 6. But you've owned the real estate and you've really made a difference. It's 21 years. I can't believe. I really feel like I've been a part of the whole thing. So I'm proud to be here.
Her and her husband, Eric, recently left that radio station, that radio group, started their own consulting business. Excited to talk about that, your background in marketing. But let's talk a little bit about your new company, Game Warden Creative and Marketing Consultants. You work with all kinds of business owners. I'm shocked and amazed at how many business owners you've met, network, consulted with over the years, and now instead of doing it for the radio group, you've taken what you've learned there and other things. But a little bit about your background in radio, and then just the new company that you and Eric have formed.
Well, I got into radio, believe it or not, 37 years ago, and it's the same company. I mean, it was practically right after I left UVA. So it's been quite a ride. I've seen the media landscape, ecosystem, or whatever change dramatically. We have so many fewer competitors. Back when I started, radio was an easy sell. It was the hottest ticket in town, and I felt like I just had the world by the tail. It's changed dramatically in that the audience is older now. So it's no matter reaching young people today is harder than ever. But in my 37 years, I was not just this, I was sales manager, program director for the 2 news talk stations. So I spent most of my time focusing on news talk because it works. And pound for pound, dollar for dollar, I couldn't tell you of a format. I recommended it because I believe in it. And, I watched it work for you, and I watched it work for so many other business owners. For business owners, it was a no-brainer. And when I started realizing how many people were listening and how many business owners listened every day, that I thought they need to get their message on this station. So we now decided to join forces together, my husband and I, and he's been on air on music radio, and he's done creative. He's an artist. We're both voice artists. And so we just decided we're going to join together, and we're going to help business owners get there too through our consulting.
In common traits, and not every business owner, I've noticed this, And I've owned businesses in the past where go out and win a large contract, knock on doors, and anyway, and that was kind of how I got clients. But in most businesses, Julie, marketing is a key success. I tell people all the time in my own industry, financial services, and other ones, it doesn't matter how great a plumber you are. If nobody knows about you, it doesn't matter. You're going to suffer. If somebody's a average or above average marketer, they're going to outperform, outsell, just, have a better life. But just a little bit about what you've seen in business owners, the ones that do marketing well. And I'm not just talking about talk radio, across the board, but just you picked up on those experiences too with successful business owners, what some do and some don't do well, right?
Absolutely. I think the ones that really do it well absolutely know who their customer, their target market is, who their consumer is, and they make sure that they know everywhere that they consume media because it has changed. So depending on what your business is and who you want to reach, you need to know who you're reaching and you need to get a message that's effective. And then you want to deliver it to the right people at the right time with, consistency, frequency, authenticity, and clarity. And I think if you can continue your message to that right audience and then be willing to pivot, know that sometimes, depending on what your competitors are doing, but you need to consistently build your plan, have a clear plan and a direction, and really set aside a budget, which a lot of people don't do, is know that you've got something that you're working with and that you have the infrastructure to handle what you're doing. And so I think the business owners that really spend time doing the research and knowing who their consumer is always do better than the others.
And somebody told me when I got into this business, I heard it from a third party and goes, Steve, if you want to be successful in the financial services, you have to invest, not speed. He didn't say spend. You have to invest, reinvest actually, about 10% of your revenue back into marketing if you're going to continue to be successful and if you want to ratchet it up. So 10%, if I wanted to do $1 million in sales, is probably going to be about $100,000 a year in marketing. Back in the day, well, one, I wasn't doing $1 million in sales and making that kind of money, whatever, but I worked my way up. But marketing dollars and building that brand, the marketing helps you build the brand. Everything you do builds your brand. I used an example recently. One of our vehicles, the headlight went out on it, Julie. And it was a Cadillac Escalade, and the local dealership, it's $3,400 to replace it. That was a kind of a poke in the eye enough right there, just the price tag of it. Then it was going to take maybe months to get the part. But the gentleman, the sales manager, not even the service manager, the sales manager got on the phone, tracked the part down because we were going to head out on a trip and we wanted to have that headlight. But my point is, he's building a brand. He was in sales, but knew that if he ever wanted me to come back to buy another vehicle from him, that it was important to do service. So, but building a brand right there in radio and marketing and anything, social media, you name it, everything that we do is either adding to our brand or taking away from our brand. But just about brand and building a brand through marketing, Julie.
I think, honestly, it's everything. And you've done a really good job, obviously, but you've grown, you've done more than just, you started selling just annuities and insurance, and you've added to that brand, and then you're becoming more full service, and you've got more of a, family office, if you will, of other business owners that you work and join together. So you have to be able to be flexible, and have to take your brand and just build on it, but make sure that it's what gives you credibility. It's what people trust in you. You don't want some one bad Yelp review. You want to control the narrative. You don't need a bad Yelp review to suddenly shed bad light on you. Where you need to keep building your website up. You need to continue the marketing. Even when you feel like you've made it, you need to keep on getting your social media presence out, giving content. Content is king, as they say, and you really want to keep delivering that. You need to have the customer service has to be bar none, because if it's not, that can throw everything bad. So you have to give the best customer experience, because that builds your brand. Everything you do builds your brand. So the minute you start and if you jump around and keep changing who you are and changing your name and flipping around, that sometimes can pose problems. And so it's easier if you can get a clear message from the beginning.
You mentioned the content. It's not always have to be a pitch online, a video to your database, or just something informative.
Right.
Something that will share information, a tip that will save them money, that will, one, keep you in contact with them so that when they do need your services, they respect you because you're constantly feeding them contact. But, red flags, when you see businesses, and we've seen, and by the way, in scale to sell, we help a lot of businesses grow, but we help in a lot of exit too. And I will see a lot of business owners, a lot of you, that if you go to exit, you start cutting back on things like marketing. Not a good idea, because your sales is typically takes 6 to 9 months to sell a business, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer. If you back off on marketing, that can hurt your sales and hurt that walking away, and you may not be able to walk away. But Julie, when you see business owners, and we mentioned red flags, and they're talking about they've hit a plateau, or worse yet, sales are going backwards, right? As far as marketing goes, and branding, what are some of the red flags? Does anything jump out at you as you've seen business owners that were doing really good, really well, and then all of a sudden they're not? Red flags that you might, give us some tips on.
I think a lot of red flags that come up today is because the digital world and the AI world, we're all excited about it. In many ways, it's changing our lives, it's improving our lives. But sometimes this sexy new option isn't something they've fully vetted. So there's no one size fits all marketing plan that's going to fit. And there are no guarantees, no matter what they say, even if they guarantee a number of impressions or a number of this and that. I mean, it's always an investment in something that's growing. I think vague reporting and metrics, now that people are getting better with metrics, you want to be able to measure what you're doing. You need to you manage expectations. I think some people get caught up and excited and they switched over. We had one business owner, I shouldn't even bring up a particular person, but she just kept changing the things she was doing, changing the platform, changing the message, going after a different model. And it just, all that was just, she was getting, she was being sold by high pressure salespeople. High pressure salespeople are not doing you any justice. And I hope I was never that person with you ever. I don't think I was. But, you don't want to hear people bad mouthing their competitors. That's a red flag. But I think somebody that comes in and doesn't have a clear strategy, you've got to have a clear plan. You have to have a budget. I think a red flag has always been that people just fall for the wrong thing and they think they can just do tactics instead of a real plan. And there has to be more thought to it. And now that everything's changing so rapidly, you have to keep up, and you've got to see what the next new thing is, but that doesn't mean you jump and abandon all that's been working for you for all these years.
One of the things I tell people all the time, and guys in my own business, if there's something that's working for you, do more of it, right? We started off with one radio show a month, and then went to two, and then to four, and six, and eight, and 10. And so anyway, and then we went into other markets as well. So that worked for us. So we turned the heat up on it, and trimmed it back or whatever when we needed to. And anyway, and so, but whatever it is you're doing, if something's working for you consistently, crank it up a little bit, crank it up. But also, as you mentioned, Julie, marketing is ever changing. Things that when we first started on radio, social media wasn't a thing, right? The internet it was there, but internet marketing to
New.
spread the word really wasn't a thing. And with AI and everything else, it is changing, evolving even as we speak it. So you got to keep doing what you're doing and do maybe a little bit more of it. And then, I find that, we do think tanks or even podcasts like this one. It's I've seen in some industries, Julie, where somebody wasn't even in my own industry, but I admired a marketing strategy they were doing. And I adopted that and modified it into my own to bring it over into this industry. But changing things around right there, you just got to be adaptive. You kind of hinted at it earlier that things are changing really rapidly.
Right.
Let's move on. And if you had a business owner, and I'm sure you've heard this before, where they said my marketing strategy is not working for me. All right, it was, but it's not.
Right.
And sometimes they've just cut out all their spending, and they're not. So one analysis is, what are you doing now? But I'm sure you heard that over the years from whatever platform, not only just in radio, but have you not heard that before? It's not working for me any longer.
Absolutely. And, a lot of times people that we're calling on that maybe used to do radio, they're like, radio never worked for me. And are like, well, what was your message? How long was your campaign? Did you give it long enough to work? And but the biggest thing is, how are you measuring it? Do you have your Google Analytics on? That's the new thing, that if you don't, you can't measure your website traffic. And we know that even just like looking at the streaming numbers, I mean, knowing how many people or how many streams is very important. You can't tell who those people are yet, but AI is evolving and changing everything, as we know. But I think making sure, asking them, immediately, how do you measure the success of your campaign? What's not working? And then, what was the last time you changed your message? And does your message have a call to action? Because if it doesn't, I think that's why, when you have a stake, like you said, a date and a stake and or whatever it is, there's a reason people have to do it by this date. If they just are branding radios, and I'm specifically thinking radio because it's been my whole life, but it's a very great branding message, but it doesn't have the sometimes immediacy unless you give it one. And so I think, it's important to also give things enough time, because if they just start off, I mean, obviously the 21 years that you've put into this, you've been giving it time and you've evolved a little bit and you've changed the method. But with many people, they just start something and they're like, oh, this station isn't working for me, or let me try this, or let me try that. And so you've got to give it time. But also, I think, how are you measuring it? Because if you don't have if you're people who are answering the phones, and because everyone, especially this is true of radio, but people just Google whatever. So if you don't have all of your Google business aligned too, you want to get on with all the Google business names to get you want to get those keywords up there, as well as, SEO, SEM. But I mean, I think it's important to get as much click recognition if you can, because it's hard. It's a fragmented freeway right now. And I can't even imagine. I mean, we're starting a new business, and so we've got to face all those things too.
I've said a few years ago, back with our team, our national team, headlines and deadlines, right? Get deals done. Headlines and deadlines. Headline might be you have a special offer if you're a plumbing and heating company, winterize your system or get ready for spring or whatever the deal might be. Headline, it's got to be a headline and a deadline, because if you just put an open-ended invitation, they will never call you. Julie, you know this, here in Virginia, Southeastern Virginia, we have a furniture company here that's been around for over 100 years. I'm not going to mention their name, but every week they have a sale of the century, every week.
Right.
But they're successful. They're one of the most successful furniture chains in the country, because the headline is the special this week. The deadline is, hey, you got to come in by Valentine's Day in order to
Right.
save 110% on this furniture, whatever. I'm joking, but anyway, but they always have a headline or deadline, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. And they've done an incredible job of, well, this is also a transient market because it's a military town. We've got a lot of people coming and going. So a lot of people are hearing that message for the very first time. I know when I moved here, which was 37 years ago. That's really hard to believe. But that the first thing I wanted to do was go to that furniture store. And we should just give them a little plug. But they did an incredible job with marketing, and it was like, I've got to run there now. I mean, they won't be available tomorrow. Well, it's been available 37 years later. I can still get it. So
Do they have the best deals? I don't know. Or
I
they
don't
have the
know. I
best
mean,
furniture? I don't know, but they constantly just knock it out of the park nationally, not just here regionally or whatever.
no, they do.
You and your husband, Eric, formed this venture. He was an on-air talent,
Yes.
does voiceover work and all that still, actually. And you both, left the radio station group to venture out in the consulting world. Well, welcome to my world of independent business owners or whatever. But how's that? I mean, I know you're just getting started. This is a relatively recent occurrence, but
Yeah.
you're going to take those thousands of business owners that you guys know, and you're going to bring your skill set. So I'm really excited for you. And how do you guys vision and where you're going to take Game Warden, your consulting business? How do you envision that mapping out here over the next year or two?
Well, I think, Eric has always been the game warden. That was kind of something that he's an artist too. And he used to make guitars out of game pieces. And the Scrabble tiles has been a big thing. That's actually part of our new logo. But He's the creative arm and I'm the marketing arm, but we're both, I think, both creative and we both understand marketing. So, but we also know people and we know business owners, and we're going to try and use this as a platform that can bring together people, because obviously we're not going to be a full service ad agency. We're not going to be doing that, but we know everyone who is, and we know so many reliable, credible sources of people that can build websites and do, and we can do our own marketing plan and copywriting, but we're both with Studio Center. We do our voice work with Studio Center. So that's a different element of what we do. But, there'll be parts and parcel that we will, connect with other people, and we're going to connect other business owners with each other. So I think we're going to be a conduit, hopefully, for a lot of business growth in the Hampton Roads area. And we love local business and we love small business, but we're kind of like sky's the limit. We'll see what happens.
I think you could carry these your skill sets and what you've learned over the years to not just people here in Virginia, but also nationwide. I see your business expanding nationwide. Yes. So if there's one last thing as we're winding down here, and we've got some opportunities here for you in a second. We've got a headline and we've got some opportunities for you as we wind down. But Julie, if there's some business owners listening today, it feels like they're stuck in their current strategies, marketing strategies, or they're stale, or they're just scattered all over the place and they don't feel like there's working well together. What would be a first step, a first thing, one thing? I always like to have, what's the first? Don't give me 10 things to do. What is one thing they could do to maybe unscatter or get some focus on things?
Well, I do think that, I've suddenly become this, chat GPT person, even Eric, because we both consider ourselves writers. It disgusts him to think that we are using chat GPT, but it's not just chat. We're able to do so much better research on everything. And so finding out what other business owners are doing globally, but also talking to your own peers in other markets and finding out what's working in other places, but you do your own research first, because I think if you could pare down exactly, I'm this size business, I have these goals, I want to reach these people, what am I doing wrong, what can I do to bring this together? I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's a little frightening, and it could put us all out of business, but the same time, I think you can't do it without real people behind it, and authentic people. And I think that's one of the other things that Eric is going to bring to the table, is because he's an influencer, and I think influencer marketing is one of the strongest form of advertising marketing that anyone. You could just see it all over, the web and Facebook and Instagram. But he's also somebody that could get behind a product, and so we're looking to make that an element of it. But more than anything, I think you want to just see what's working for other people and then get a true handle on your own budget. And because I think the budget thing is, people don't put enough money into advertising. You're right. They're not putting, and they rarely, even when they're doing really well, say, let's put 10% back in. But you need to do your homework. You need to talk to a marketing professional, because people like Eric and I will be able to consult without, we're consultants. We're not there to sell you a product. So you want people that can ultimately look at what you've got going on, what's working, and look at it objectively. So I think that's what I would do first, is just do your homework. It's easy to get now, and try to stay focused.
Trial and error, is costly too. All right. I don't want to pay a marketing consultant. I want to pay a tax attorney. I don't want to pay, whatever it may, a lawyer. Those things are lessons of just time, losing sales. That's expensive. So these people are here to help you speed the process up. So anyway, one last call to action right here. Go to scaletosell.com/assessment, or click the link below to get the show notes and grab the free 10 questions assessment for growth and income. Guys, if you can be the best plumber there is out there, you can be the best roofer, you could be the best whatever. But I've seen people that were average or below average in their trade, but they were above average or even Hall of Famers when it comes to marketing. And those are going to kill it. You understand why that person they don't do nearly the work that we do. Yeah, but they're marketing. That is the key element in what keeps many companies average or below average, and others to excel into top of their market in whatever region they're in throughout the country. Julie Worden of, I love the name of your company. I don't know, you guys came up with it. Game Warden, creative and marketing consultants out of, Norfolk, Virginia, and southeastern part of Virginia, but can talk to you guys anywhere in the country. And I'm sure you'll be hearing them back and seeing them back. Julie, any last thoughts? And we'll wind things down here on this podcast.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me, but also, Steve, you've been one of the things that stood out about you to me from the beginning is that you believed in marketing. I think, every once in a while, business owners are like, well, I don't know how much I need, word of mouth, this and that. No, you need to invest in your marketing plans because honestly, that is what's going to cut through the clutter because nothing else will. And you've done an excellent job. And, I don't have to butter you up anymore like I used to.
I'm not buying anything from you anymore. So it's all good.
But anyway, no, I really appreciate it, and I think that, and I appreciate the opportunity to get our new venture out. It should be a lot of fun, and we know a lot of people, so I think we're going to be able to connect a lot of people together.
We want to help you scale your business. We want to help you maybe one day exit or sell your business too. Guys, we appreciate you listening on the Scale to Sell podcast. And as Adam, my son, always says, keep on scaling. We'll see you next time. Take care.